Okay, Yusuke Showcase. Yusuke, he's a pretty beast unit. He can hit insane numbers given he has the right team and equipment, but I'm going to get into that. But first, I want to go over his abilities. His slots are 5-star magic, 5-star support, 4-star physical. His skill permanently increases his own attack by 10% up to 100%. This paired up with his arts stacks up to 300%, and this will make him hit like a truck if he's fully stacked. Arts permanently increases his own damage by 20% up to 200%. This has a quick animation, so stacking would be a little bit quicker, but the trade-off is it takes a lot of art gauge to get it fully stacked. But if you're trying to nuke, I recommend not using this ability because the 20% is not really going to benefit you than using his true arts, because that's his main damage source. True arts for 8 seconds increases all allies arts by 5. He is a type B arts gener, and he won't be able to stack with notable units like Darkcelia, Rosetta, and Norn because they all fall into the same archgen type. But usually you won't be using him as a main source of art gauge. Usually you would use him for like the main damage source of your team. So his first ability prevents him from getting knocked back when he takes damage. When he dies, he also revives with 100% HP, and he also does not lose his stacks. His second ability is pretty straightforward. It just increases his physical resistance by 10%. His last ability, when he takes damage that equals over 10% his max HP, he'll gain 10 art gauge. This helps slightly, but usually this won't make a difference given if you have the right team with him. And the passives that are on the left, they're not part of his kit, they came from his equipment. So now my crest recommendations are attack up as his best overall crest, but it all depends on what you're trying to use him in. And for nuking, anything that can increase his damage, like attack, all stats, and crit damage up. But if you're trying to use him as support, or if you want to use him as an art gener, equipment CT and skill CT to help him with stacking or his supporting abilities. So his equipment changes based on what you're trying to use him in. If you're trying to nuke with him, I would recommend for his magic slot anything that can boost his damage or his team's overall damage, like True Stratega, Alma's Bikini, some Skeletal Wings. And for his support slot, his best in slot is Gen Tempest or Type 0, because that gives you 50 art gauge and is passive of increasing your damage for the first 30 seconds. Anything else you can use like Rosetta's True Weapon, anything that can boost your art gauge pretty high. And his 4-star physical is pretty flexible. Usually I'll run Vulcans to clear waves quicker, or Gunbray Cannon from Vicious trial event, and it increases everybody's damage by 20%, but you gotta time it with his true art because it takes a long time to wind up. For general use, his loadout becomes pretty straightforward. For his magic slot, I would recommend anything that can boost his art gauge, like Diork's True Weapon, his event farmable, and Alma's hat from the side story. For his 5-star support, anything that can boost his art gauge or his team's would be pretty beneficial. And for his 4-star physical, his best in slot is Grief. Grief is a farmable item from B3 in the mines, and it increases your attack by 30% and autofills your art gauge by 2 for 10 seconds on a 10-second cooldown. But if you're using this item, I would recommend using anything that can give you lifesteal for your magic slot, because it's gonna take away 15% of your max HP every time you use it. Just like nuking, his 4-star physical is pretty flexible. You can get away with using anything, to be honest. It just depends on whatever you need to do. Like if you need burn, Vulcans is the way to go. If you need a little more damage, you can use Gunbray Cannon. Or if you want to stack your skills quicker, you can use Mako Knuckles. It just all depends on what you want to use them in. Okay, this is my first showcase, and I want to thank y'all for watching. But before I go, I want to let y'all know that within a week's time, or within this week, I'm going to start posting my Borderlands 3 video. It's going to be a playthrough with my friends, and we're just going to see what happens, and we're just going to try to have fun. And once again, I want to thank y'all for watching. Thank you.
Oh, I could be all it is you need, 'cause we are trying to find a way.